begin with a report that Tunisian President Kais Saied has sacked 57 judges, accusing them of corruption and protecting terrorists. In a television address, he said he had given the judiciary multiple opportunities and warnings to purify itself. Among the sackings announced in the government's official gazette was Youssef Bouz Kezia, the former head of the Supreme Judicial Council. President Said replaced the council earlier this year, part of his efforts to consolidate his position after he seized power last July. He has already dismissed Tunisia's elected parliament and set aside the constitution. Meanwhile, Said has promised a referendum on a new constitution next month. In another development, Gambian President Adama Barrow has been on a 4-day trip to Equatorial Guinea, where ex-President Yahya Jammeh is living in exile. This comes days after the Gambia said it was ready to prosecute the 57-year-old ex-president for crimes committed during his 22-year rule. A recommendation of the Truth, Reconciliation and Repatriations Commission. No mention was made in the media reports of Jammeh, who has lived in Equatorial Guinea since January of 2017, when he went into exile after a shock electoral defeat. Reports say during the trip that Barrow met his Equatorial Guinean counterpart Obiang Nguema, and state media said their wives had dinner together. In a statement released, Office of the President of Gambia said the two countries signed several accords at a ceremony at the Presidential Palace in the capital Malabo on Sunday. Meanwhile, Tanzania's government has paid pension and other benefits that opposition politician Tundu Lissu lost when he was stripped of his parliamentary seat. After fleeing into exile, at the time he was at loggerheads with the then President John Magufuli, who was determined to crack down on the opposition. Reports say since Magufuli's death last year that the political climate has changed in Tanzania under his successor, President Samia Hassan. Speaking at a digital forum on Wednesday, Lissu said he had received a phone call 2 months ago from an officer in the finance ministry who informed him that the benefits he was claiming had been paid. Recall that Lissu left Tanzania in 2017 after being shot and wounded by unidentified gunmen in the capital of Dodoma. Away from that, French prosecutor says a former Miss France has been charged in a long-running inquiry over the alleged ill-gotten wealth by the former president of Gabon, Omar Bongo, and his family. Sonia Roland has been charged with receipt of embezzled public funds for accepting an apartment from him in Paris worth $750,000. Her lawyer maintains she did not know the source of the funds. Ms. Roland is a Rwandan French actress and was Miss France in 2000, the first African-born winner of the pageant. The prosecutors have also charged 4 Bongo's children with corruption relating to properties and luxury cars worth at least $90 million. Elsewhere, the UN Secretary General's Special Representative in Democratic Republic of Congo says a strong military response is needed to end the M23 insurgency once and for all. Bintu Keita praised the UN forces and the National Army for restoring calm in Ngingorgogo and Rusuru areas of North Kivu province after 2 weeks of clashes with the rebels. Speaking on Wednesday from the province's capital, Goma, the Guinean diplomat said ending the threat from the rebels was possible with a strong military response to M23 aggression, political response through regional mechanism, the government's program of disarmament and reintegration of rebel groups. Reports say the M23 has called for the government to implement the Nairobi Peace Accords of 2013, but that the government now regards them as terrorists and has ruled out new talks with them. To Ghana, now where police have arrested 3 people over the public flogging of a couple at the palace of a traditional chief in Wa in the northern Upper West region. The two teenagers were alleged to have recorded a sex video and posted it online. The Ghana Bar Association said the treatment of the couple at the palace of the traditional leader was dehumanizing, degrading, and amounted to a violation of their human rights. Widely shared video recordings show the show by the two young people tied to a pole and being flogged. Flogging is a form of punishment meted out by traditional elders in the area for misbehavior, although it is not approved by the law. Meanwhile, the chief was not at the palace during the incident and has condemned the barbaric act. In a separate development, asylum seekers in the UK have spoken of the distress they are facing after being served notices that they will be deported to Rwanda under a controversial new scheme. Several of them, including people from Egypt, Syria, and Sudan, have told newsmen that they have gone on hunger strike and say they see deportation as worse than death. Meanwhile, the British government says the planned deportations, which cannot be appealed against, are an attempt to overhaul what it calls a broken asylum system. It says it is taking every step to prevent self-harm or suicide at immigration removal centers. Away from that, the United States has appointed a new envoy for the Horn of Africa to try to help with the peace process in Ethiopia. Mike Hammer was previously the U.S. ambassador to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said Hammer's appointment underscored American commitment to peace, security, and prosperity for Ethiopia. Recall that in November of 2020, the Ethiopian government launched an assault in the Tigray region, triggering a conflict that has displaced more than 2 million people. Meanwhile, South Africa's former spy chief has accused President Cyril Ramaphosa of kidnapping and bribery. In a case he has registered with the police, Arthur Fraser said the case related to the alleged attempted theft of $4 million in 2020 at one of the president's properties and the alleged efforts to conceal what happened. Ramaphosa said there is no basis for the claims of criminal conduct. Meanwhile, Fraser is seen by some as an ally of former President Jacob Zuma. Some believe the allegations could be linked to wrangles within the ruling African National Congress (ANC) ahead of a leadership race in December. The police have confirmed that a case has been registered with them and that due processes will follow, which includes initial investigation. To Somalia now, where the government says more than 300,000 children are facing acute malnutrition and nearly 800,000 Somalians have been displaced by the drought affecting the Horn of Africa. Meanwhile, the new president Hassan Sheikh Mohamud visited Badua in the worst affected region. His special envoy for drought and humanitarian affairs, Abdurrahman Abdushukur, told newsmen that people were desperate for help and he had seen children in critical need. He said Somalia had hardly received any assistance from the international community, and he was concerned that the drought could develop into a famine. The United Nations has warned that the Horn of Africa is suffering from its worst drought in 40 years, following 4 consecutive poor rainfall seasons. Away from that, a reported 3,000 travelers in South Africa have been left stranded after the Air airline abruptly suspended all its flights with immediate effect. The airline announced the suspension on Tuesday evening, citing financial problems. Angry customers say Air offered specials and accepted bookings just hours before announcing the suspension. Reports say some travelers were scrambling to find alternative flights. Meanwhile, Air is seeking more funding to be able to resume operations. Meanwhile, the Norwegian Refugee Council (NRC) says the world is paying too little attention to mass displacement of people across Africa. The head of the organization, Jan Egeland, said that African suffering would, in his words, be pushed further into the shadows by the all-absorbing war in Ukraine. It is the first time that all 10 countries on the Council's list of most neglected refugee crises are on the African continent. They include the Democratic Republic of Congo, Burkina Faso, South Sudan, and Ethiopia. Reports say the Council's assessment is based on shortfalls in the international political response, media coverage, and aid pledge. To Ethiopia now, where police have accused dozens of online media outlets of spreading hate and false information. In a statement on Wednesday, the Federal Police Force said it had identified 111 online media outlets that it said were working to create divisions between the government and the public, as well as between different ethnic and faith groups. The announcements came after a recent wave of arrests that has seen 18 journalists and media workers put behind bars, prompting concerns of crackdown against critical voices. The police statement said the online media outlets were unlicensed and spreading false and insightful information. A spokesperson for the Federal Police Force told newsmen that he could not name the accused media outlets as investigations were still underway. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll bring you the rest of the stories on Spotlight Africa. Do stay with us. Spotlight. Thanks for staying tuned. The United Nations mission in Mali, MUNISIMA, says one of its peacekeepers has been killed. Reports say a convoy carrying a Jordanian contingent came under fire from a small arms and rocket-propelled grenade in the northern region of Kidal. 3 others were injured. It is not clear who carried out the attack, but MUNISIMA was created in 2013 to help defend the country against Islamist militants. Meanwhile, the UN has lost more than 170 of its peacekeepers in Mali since then. A transitional military council is ruling the country after ousting the elected president Ibrahim Keita in 2020. In Libya, the project organizer Samantha Robinson behind Libya's first skate park, which opened over the weekend in Tripoli, has told newsmen that it was a dream come true because skaters in the country had wanted to build a skate park since 2013. She said it is a place where there are skateboarders who are interested in promoting the sport in their country. She added that the sport was quite popular in Tripoli and that before the park, people used to do it on the street, but that it can be dangerous. Meanwhile, in Mozambique and Russia have agreed to strengthen ties during a 2-day visit of a top Russian politician to Maputo. Both sides signed a deal in Mozambique's capital aimed at strengthening cooperation between the two countries. Parliaments, including when it comes to information sharing. Valentina Matsifoko, chairwoman of the Russian Federation Council and Senate, had high praise for Mozambique, calling it a trustworthy partner and recalling Moscow's historic support for the Southern African nation. She said this ranged from assistance during the liberation struggle against Portuguese Congolanians to training Mozambicans in Russia since February. Russia has been a pariah on most of the world stage because of its invasion of Ukraine. It could be recalled that Mozambique was one of 58 countries that abstained on a UN General Assembly vote on suspending Russia from the UN Human Rights Council because of the war. And that's all we have for you at this time. To ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. You have been watching Spotlight Africa. I am Uyai Anyeken. Thanks for watching and do enjoy the rest of your evening.